and welcome to my podcast, Lips of Steel, unscripted, unfiltered, and unstoppable. My name is Nicole and I am your host. And today we're going to be talking about the fundamentals of functional health. And we're going to take a deep dive into the body's inner chemistry and how it affects your outer performance and the way that your body functions, both just in everyday life and in your athletic performance. And I have special guest today, Courtney Adhoot. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
And she's going to kind of dive into some of the stuff. Now, I did some work with her with getting my labs done, and I did a whole massive, pages of labs to take a look at what was going on in my body, just so I could better understand the process of what it is that you do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But first, tell me about your background, your education and training, and let's start from that.
Absolutely. So my title is I'm a health optimization specialist. And what that means is exactly what it says. I specialize in helping people optimize their health through a functional lens. So looking at nutrition, exercise and training, daily lifestyle habits, but also how the body is working from a biochemistry standpoint, looking at blood work. I also specialize in peptide therapy and supplementation, and have grown that niche of my business to be pretty successful. I went to Chapman University and got my degree in health science. And then from there, I worked as a chemist in the personal care industry. And so my background is in both chemistry and also human anatomy and exercise physiology. So I've been able to merge those worlds together and help people optimize their lives and live longer, healthier, more fulfilled lives.
That's what I'm looking for.
Isn't that all of us, right?
Absolutely. So one of the things, my podcast really focuses on women more in my age range, and you're much younger. So we're looking at women 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. And in that age range, we're talking about perimenopause. It starts early. It starts a lot earlier than most women understand. Yeah. And it can extend clear into the 60s. So I'm dangerously close to that 60 mark, 5 months from now. And I am very much postmenopausal. So, which is, was a little surprising to me. I kind of went through menopause very young and thankfully did not have a lot of symptoms. So I was very fortunate. But there's a lot of other things that go with it. Like, you have the big symptoms like the, fatigue and the hot flashes and that kind of stuff. Thankfully, I didn't get that, some of the other stuff. But anyway, so why would a woman between their 40s and 60s, why would they come to someone like you? What would be
absolutely
some of the things they present with?
So anytime that somebody goes through a major change in their life, there is an opportunity for optimization. And optimization can be for everybody. But when we're looking at the specific peri to postmenopausal demographic, that is a massive, massive change in a woman's life where we're seeing a dramatic decrease in hormone production, that is the definition of menopause. Your menopause is your last cycle, and that is going to be caused by the hormonal downfall, and that is opening up doors for other systems in the body to be impacted. It's very common in traditional standard medicine to look at the body as these subunits, when really it's an organic system. What's happening in one part of your body impacts things that are going on in different systems and how you're showing up. And if we're just focusing on, looking through it a lens like this and making sure that one system is working maybe okay, but we're completely neglecting the rest of the body, we're neglecting the rest of the body. Right. So there's a great opportunity for women when they start to go through menopause to kind of reclaim their life. The menopause is this scary taboo. Oh my gosh, I'm perimenopausal. It's going to be awful. It's going to be scary. It doesn't have to be.
Well, and for some people, it definitely does have more of an impact. But, I think for me is, you said you're taking the different systems, you're looking at a holistic perspective. And for women, it's like that becomes their singular focus. Once their body starts to shift and once their body starts to go through this hormonal shift and they start getting some of the symptoms, that's all they talk about. And they're forgetting about the other things that are going right in their body. So trying to balance the two and, as you say, optimize this particular system that is shifting, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world.
There's also an incredible lack of education of what menopause can show up looking like.
Right.
Many people associate menopause with all of a sudden, you get these hot flashes. And that's the most common side effect that we hear about, because it's prevalent. And it can be debilitating for a lot of people.
Absolutely. I see it all the time.
But what we're not talking about is things like changes to your joints, changes to your bones, changes to your hair texture.
Right.
All of a sudden, you've had straight hair your whole life. All of a sudden, you got these curly, kinky hair. There's these waves in your hair. What's going on?
I have to change all my hair products.
Got to change everything. But there's so many, when we're looking at it systemically, there's so many things that start to change.
Right.
And realizing that you can embrace these changes and face them and work with them to improve them, versus trying to fight tooth and nail and white knuckle it for everything to stay the same.
Right.
You can find a way where you can go with the flow a little bit and address things as they come. And that comes from being educated and also feeling empowered that you know what's going on in your body.
Well, and I think kind of diving into some of the pathophysiology of what is happening in the body can sometimes help to understand.
Absolutely.
So my background, I'm a registered nurse, and I was a labor and delivery nurse and did women's health. So I've been dealing with women and I've done infertility also. I've worked in the infertility field. So looking at the pathophysiology of the woman's body, and I've looked at some of the labs that we look at for menopause and perimenopause for infertility. And I went through infertility myself with my youngest child, and looking at the ratios of some of these hormones that we have in our body, and when they get out of whack, what does it actually do to the body? Why is it that when your FSH and your LH are out of whack, why does that have an effect on your body's ability to either produce an egg or to produce a healthy egg or to retain an embryo and all of that? Now we're looking at the other side of it. We're looking at a drop of estrogen, a drop of progesterone, our testosterone levels are off. And how does that affect some of the other symptoms that we get, such as sagging skin, the creepy, the little skin
lines. Yeah.
And as you mentioned, the joint pain. The number one thing I think I hear with women, and which is one of the issues that I have, is hip pain.
Hip pain.
Why? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So we have these drops in these hormones, these very necessary hormones that were present in our body because their primary role and focus was to help us produce babies. Right?
Yeah.
Now we don't need them.
Now I don't need the babies.
God forbid. 50 or 9 years old, no babies. I've given birth to plenty.
Shop is closed.
So yes, shop is closed. So we don't need him anymore for that, but we need it for other things as well. So let's talk about that.
Absolutely. So testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, those are going to be really like the big three of our sex hormones. And for women, we hear a lot about estrogen and progesterone, and testosterone is, that's for guys.
That's for men, right?
That's for men. That's not for us. And that is a massive, massive misconception and is really a downfall when we're looking at doing our bodies justice.
Right.
Testosterone is going to be what is tied to, yes, our ability to maintain and build muscle. Right, which is we see a huge drop off in muscle mass and tone peri and post menopause, and that is largely due to a decrease in testosterone. That is also going to have a tremendous role in when we're looking at estrogen, at our bone density, when we're looking at our bone density, especially when we're talking about hip pain, right?
Right.
So that's going to come twofold. That's going to come from our tendons and our connective tissue are now in a compromised position because hormone drop-off is going to impact our ability to recover, repair, and regenerate those tissues. And now we're also looking at it from a bone density perspective.
Right.
Our hips bear a lot of weight. I mean, our hips, our knees, our ankles, our lower body, all like our body is sitting on that.
Right.
And when we pair the lack of tissue regeneration with the hormone drop off, now we're looking at loss of muscle in our glutes. That's what's going to help stabilize the hips. So menopause and hip pain that is a very, very, very common concern. And the way that you can address that is through hormone optimization and also through, that doesn't necessarily have to mean HRT or hormonal replacement therapy.
Because there's a lot of concern. We're seeing so much with breast cancers and all the different female cancers, and HRTs can increase your risk of certain female cancers.
Fortunately, a lot of the black box warnings for HRT have now been walked back, and that has been tremendous. But there is definitely still, it's not for everyone, and there is a certain amount of responsibility that you have to take, and you have to be comfortable with it. And nobody should be doing anything with their body, for their body, that they don't feel comfortable and empowered doing. But that empowerment comes from education.
Yes.
And so when we look at it from a holistic approach, and we're looking at bioidentical hormone replacement, there's a certain safety risk associated with it. There's a certain risk associated with taking Advil.
Right.
But
for sure.
When we're looking at the ability to combat some of these symptoms, optimizing hormones and optimizing system function, and you can do that a few ways through oral supplementation, but also through peptide supplementation, and supporting the body that way.
And peptides are kind of a big thing right now. It started with, honestly, the GLPs.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been all over the news. There's the good, the bad, and the uglies about it. Of course, they really try to vilify it in the mainstream media, it seems like, because they just, I don't know. I mean, we went through when all of a sudden people started using it for optimizing weight loss. Mm-hmm. Then it was, we have a shortage, and
I think a lot of it came from, it was this seen as being like this shortcut.
Right.
And
an easy out.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people already look at people who fall into an overweight or obese category as being lazy or being, they just don't have the willpower.
Right.
Oh, well,
all you have to do is eat less and exercise more.
Yeah. Like, and you're just looking at it from a very narrow-minded perspective.
Right.
And I think that was the initial kind of hate towards the GLPs, that it was like, oh, they're just giving them the easy way out. Yeah. And
that still persists a little bit.
It does.
Anytime somebody's lost weight or looks like they've lost a lot of weight.
Oh, they must be on
are you on Ozempic?
Yeah, they must be on the shot.
Yeah.
And really there's so much more benefit now that's coming out of taking a GLP. And again, it's a tool in the toolbox.
Right.
That's how I look at all peptides and all supplements is sometimes for a construction job, you need a hammer and a nail, and sometimes you need a wrench and a screw.
Right.
And
sometimes you need to bring out the big guns and power tools.
Yeah, and sometimes you need the power tools.
Yes, that's what I feel like. These peptides and these GLPs are power tools.
Yeah, but
they really are.
They're still just tools in the toolbox, and there's no need to vilify them or villainize them, and there's no need to be scared of them. As long as you know how to utilize them properly, or you're working with somebody who does, then they can be, they can help you build your dream house.
Yeah. Right? I like that. I like that analogy a lot. Okay, so let's talk. I want to go into the peptides a little more in a minute, but before we do that, let's talk about labs, because I'm, as a registered nurse, I've looked at hundreds, thousands of labs, and the allopathic Western medicine, whatever you want to call it, you have ranges. So, your white blood cell count, you have a specific range that we consider optimal for overall health. But some of the labs that you were asking for, and when you evaluated them, your ranges shifted. Talk to me about that a little bit. And why would for functional health and optimization be different than just overall health?
It's a great question. It's one I get very frequently especially when I go through labs, is people will be like, well, everything came back normal on my blood work. What are you talking about? What do you mean I have all these things that we need to address? And it comes as this surprise when we look at you get your labs done, it has the reference range on the side, and everything comes back and your doctor goes, great, you look normal. Everything's great. Let's keep moving forward. That reference range is a population average. And the population average includes sick, young, old, healthy, elderly, obese, skinny, pre-existing conditions, no pre-existing conditions. It encompasses the entire population. And that's great to get, a view of where you fall within a population, but I am Courtney. You are Nicole.
Right.
We are not the same.
Absolutely.
We do not, what is average and what is optimal for you, if you compare our labs together and you're using each other's labs to create a functional value for each other, no offense, but what good is that to me?
Right.
So the reference ranges that I use are based on optimal ranges for your body, not what Tim, Dick, and Sally are doing over here.
Okay.
And that reference range is looking at the body, like I said, in that holistic lens where, yes, we're looking at your thyroid and we're looking at what's going on with your thyroid hormones, but those ranges have been set up looking at sex hormones, looking at your adrenals, looking at your CBC, your CMP, and it's put in such a way that we're not just looking at what's normal, we're not just looking at what's average, we're looking at what's functionally optimal.
Right. Okay, and I have my labs here, and I think that I might be missing some. For some reason, I don't seem to have the one that has all the, the progesterone, estrogen, and all of that.
Mm.
I don't have that one on my list, but just the few that were out of range. So we looked at the T3, which is your thyroid.
Mm-hmm.
That's with your thyroid. And you found that to be out of range. My vitamin B12 I thought it was fine according to the norms.
Reference range, yeah.
Reference range. But according to your range, it was low. So, and then the other thing that was a little surprising was my iron and the free iron and stuff like that, when we calculated that. And you came up with something that was interesting.
Interesting.
This is very interesting. So let's talk a little bit about that particular lab.
Yeah.
And because the reason I find it interesting is it could pertain to women in the peri-postmenopausal.
Absolutely.
I'll let you explain why.
So this is a perfect example of why we need to look at things from a whole body perspective. So just to walk you through, put you in the moment. Nicole had gotten her labs done. I'm sitting at my desk. I'm going through them. And I'm looking at her thyroid, and I start with her thyroid, and that's like the first place that I'm taking a peek at things, and I'm looking at, T3 could be low due to conversion, could be due to low T4, which is another thyroid hormone that is T4 is converted to T3, and T3 is the usable form of thyroid hormone in the body. Could be due to a nutrient deficiency, could be due to underactive thyroid. All right, we need to we need to look what's going on here. So I go down to our iron panel and I see that your ferritin is low. And your ferritin is, it's a marker of iron, but it also is a independent marker of inflammation. And so we want to look at it from a couple different perspectives. Low ferritin now can impair T4 to T3 conversion. So I'm starting to make some connections here. And when we look at ferritin, in this case, Nicole's ferritin was low. That can be early signs of iron deficiency anemia. Your ferritin is actually going to drop well before your iron stores do. So when we're looking at addressing iron deficiency anemia, before we see it come up on your iron, we can look at ferritin. All right, that's another thing that I'm noting in my mind. But we're looking at Nicole, I'm looking at her total iron binding capacity, I'm looking at your serum iron, I'm looking at your iron saturation, and none of those are consistent with iron deficiency anemia. In fact, everything looked fine. Your iron saturation was actually high, which is completely counterintuitive to iron deficiency anemia. So now I'm like...
Which doesn't surprise me because nothing has ever made sense with me. My body never makes sense to me. But
so now I'm sitting here and I'm like, gosh, what are we looking at? This is, normally you start to uncover things and you start putting the puzzle together and you can start seeing the picture pretty clearly. And in this case, I'm putting puzzle pieces together and the picture's getting more and more distorted. I'm like, my brain is working now. I'm in my happy place. And I'm looking at this and, nothing was really making sense until I started to do a little bit of a deeper dive on things, because when nothing makes sense, that's not the time where we go, all right, I don't know.
Just an anomaly, move on.
Yeah, that's the time where we lock in and we dig deeper. So I dig deeper. I'm looking at her ferritin, serum iron, total iron binding capacity, iron saturation. Now I'm also looking at other inflammatory markers like your C-reactive protein, looking at your liver, your ALT, your A1C, your TSH, your T3, and your T4. And that's really what I'm building my kind of case off of.
Right.
Are these markers.
And I know there's a lot of acronyms and there's a lot of things that probably people don't understand. But that's okay because, you're going to want to get into this at some point too and dig into and then you'll be able to unravel all of these acronyms and all of these names.
And what I found based on doing this case study and diving deeper was the potential for a hereditary gene mutation called hereditary hemochromatosis. And hereditary hemochromatosis kind of was the answer to all of these puzzle pieces that were fitting together, but also completely negating each other. And hereditary hemochromatosis is going to be it's a inability of your body to process iron properly. And this was kind of it needs to be confirmed by genetic testing.
Right.
But what was able to draw this together was that your iron saturation was as high as it was, that your ferritin was as low as it was, that your total iron binding capacity was at the low end of normal, but your other inflammatory markers were still in a relatively good place. So next steps, we talked about getting the gene testing done to confirm.
Right.
And the really interesting thing about hereditary hemochromatosis is how it lines up with menopause. And we talked about this.
Yes.
Is when you're a woman and you potentially have this, your body is bleeding every month. Premenopause, you're having your period, and when you're bleeding, you are falsely de-escalating your iron stores because they're being excreted through blood.
Which is why a lot of women take iron supplements throughout their life, the lifespan up until menopause. And although nobody ever says, hey, take a look at this when you hit menopause, but women take iron supplements during pregnancy because pregnancy depletes iron stores. And, we're wanting to keep our iron. We're always being told, keep your iron level up.
Yeah. You want your iron, having a proper iron supplementation is very important. If you are low in iron, that is going to contribute to not only blood health, but bone health, brain fog, mood, like energy. It affects a lot of things. But in this case, the symptoms were kind of being masked by your monthly period. Right. And now with the absence of a period, there's been time for these iron stores to accumulate, which is what's brought up your iron saturation.
Right.
And now we're looking at, okay, if we leave this untreated, we're going to find toxic levels of iron in the blood, which is going to have a very adverse effect on health span and lifespan. Looking at organ damage, joint issues, skin changes, organ dysfunction, hypothyroid, adrenal insufficiency. I mean, the list goes on. But like I said, this was the opportunity not to go, all right, yeah, everything looks fine. Your iron saturation's a little bit high, but your ferritin falls in the reference range. We're good to go. And then all of a sudden you're dealing with these unexplained symptoms, and it's like, I wonder what's going on here. That's why we dig deep. That's why we when it gets hard, we start leaning in. So very interesting here, because with a low ferritin, you would look and you would point to, all right, we need to supplement iron. In hereditary hemochromatosis, we don't want to supplement iron.
Right.
We're good with what we got. We want to focus on supporting detox pathways and allowing the body to process iron and supporting it that way, not by giving it more.
So I actually, I had some subsequent labs because they hadn't pulled everything the first time. And since the labs that came up, I decreased iron. I took out any iron supplements in my diet. So I do take vitamins and stuff like that. So made sure I took that out and just kind of was paying attention to my iron. And actually, my serum iron did drop.
There we go.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
There we go.
So my watch is buzzing me. So yeah, it's definitely, I have not done the genetic testing. I've got to look into that to confirm it, and which I would like to. I want to, if that's something that is existing, then I need to address it. And going forward, I'm assuming it's just, watching your iron intake.
Yep.
And
supporting anti-inflammatory pathways and antioxidant pathways as well. And
with supplementation. Like CoQ10s.
Yes. NAC, glutathione, curcumin, focusing on supporting the liver. The liver is going to be your greatest tool at detoxing.
Right.
That's the job of the liver.
Lion's mane.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many great supplements. If we wanted to look into peptide therapy, looking at things that are going to reduce systemic inflammation, as when we have iron that gets too high, usually that can lead to whole body inflammation. So working on bringing down inflammation, which is going to help support other systems and working there most optimally as well.
Okay. And how common is this genetic mutation?
It's not entirely uncommon. It's not crazy rare. I want to say, I couldn't give you a number for it, but
probably goes undiagnosed is the thing.
I think that's a huge part of it is
how many people are going to test genetically for this?
Just out of the blue. I think I want to go get tested for hereditary hemochromatosis today.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a large population or portion of the population that it would go undiagnosed in. But I think that it's not something that's super uncommon, and it's not something to be scared of if you do have it. There's nothing.
Just a shift.
It's just a shift. The more information, the more data you have on your body, it can be overwhelming, and it can feel like, oh my gosh, there's so many labs that she wants me to get drawn, and there's so much information that she's spitting at me, and these acronyms and these peptides and these supplements, and oh my gosh. When we look at it, we break it down.
To optimize our health.
It's a lot of work, but the more data that we have on our body, the more we're stacking our deck. Where the more cards we have to play with, the better our hand's going to be.
Well, I mean, we're talking about longevity here. And there's so much out there about longevity and the blue zones and dietary and making sure that we're eating foods that are going to support longevity and reducing inflammation. I mean, inflammation is like the worst thing in our body.
Nothing can work optimally if there is inflammation involved. When I was working in personal care, and I worked in R&D, and I would be developing, these anti-aging creams and these skin brightening this and anti-wrinkle that, and the root of every product is all right, how are we going to first address the inflammation for this?
Right.
Because if we're trying to live in a house that's on fire, we're not going to be staying there too long. The house is still going to crumble.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many misters you put on. Like, we got to put out the fire first. So that's a huge part of what I do. That is my first step of nearly every client that I work with is, let's see where your inflammation's at, and let's see how we can bring this down through stress mitigation, through nutrition, through lifestyle habits. It's not a immediate, all right, let's put you on a gazillion peptides and supplements. It's, let's get those low-hanging fruits out of the way so that we can bring that inflammation down, so that we can increase our body's ability to flourish and to thrive.
So one of the markers is that CRP, C-reactive protein.
Mm-hmm.
And I had mentioned to you when we first talked that I'd had a couple of labs and that was off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
And it freaked me out because when you have inflammation, it can be an indication of heart disease.
Yeah.
And cancers.
Yeah. C-reactive protein is your cardiac reactive protein, and that is tested as a indicator. The key word is indicator. Right. It's not a crystal ball. It's not a foregone conclusion. It's an indicator of your potential for a cardiac related incident. So the higher your C-react protein is, the more hypothetically likely you are to have a cardiac incident, stroke, heart attack, any of those infarctions.
And in my particular case, because I am a nurse and I myself, am a science-minded background person, I did a deep dive into it and found that another reason that can be high is lower back pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been experiencing extreme lower back pain, and it was related to underdeveloped gluteal muscles, mm-hmm. which I found to be quite humorous. If you've ever seen my backside, I do not have a small butt. I am very Greek, okay? Like, underdeveloped gluteal muscles. Okay, but it was the actual muscle structure. Mm-hmm. And also tight IT bands mm-hmm. from doing a lot of driving my daughter around, being in the car a lot, not stretching it out. There was a few things that were going on, so I went through physical therapy, worked on that, been doing different things to work on developing the muscle structure, supportive structure. The low back pain went away. Also core. Yes. I mean, my core is pretty strong, but I also had a surgery because my muscles, I'd had the diastasis, and my muscles were super separated from having 5 kids, including a set of twins. So they had surgically repaired that, and which meant that my core had not regenerated. Mm-hmm. So fixing all of that, my lower back pain went away. And then when we did the lab, magic, the magic of magic, my CRP went way down.
Yep.
So, again, not looking at everything just at face value and going, oh, crud, you've got to, you're going to die. We're going to have a heart attack. No, let's look deeper.
It's when we see anything come up on your labs as being a potential red flag, it's just the sign to dig deeper. It's yes. not a 911 emergency. Oh my gosh, you have 3 months. It's let's take a pause here. Something is indicating in our body that we need to give it some attention and some love.
Yeah.
And it's just being in pursuit of that data and being in pursuit of that education.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So now we're going to kind of jump into supplementation based upon symptoms and labs. So I wrote a list of symptoms, peri-postmenopausal.
Yeah.
See if you agree with this. Weight gain.
Yes.
Hair thinning or loss. Skin thinning, sagging, and the crepey skin. Facial changes, which come from the sagging skin, the jowls, the chin, the eyelids. Mm-hmm. Joint aches and pains. Hip pain, which, low libido. We haven't even talked about that part yet. Low energy or fatigue. And the other side of that is not being able to sleep, insomnia, mm-hmm. Waking up, hot flashes, and anxiety.
Yes.
So is that a pretty complete list?
That is a very complete list. Yes. In my head, I'm going progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, because all of these things are due to those hormones kind of bottoming out and tanking out. talking about libido, that is going to be tremendously due to testosterone. And it's not only the psychological lack of drive, can also have to do with the physiological symptoms of vaginal dryness, vaginal pain, pain during intercourse. All of those things drive, when it's not just, I don't feel like I'm in the mood right now.
Right.
It's
anticipating
the whole
challenges and said not wanting to set yourself up for disappointment.
Okay, absolutely. So it's more than just,
or embarrassment, I would say. Let's throw that in there.
Yeah, first of all, it's nothing to be embarrassed about. There should be no taboo about talking about menopause, about talking about the symptoms and the struggles that go along with menopause. It is an inevitable fact of the female lifespan.
Right.
However, it's somehow been created to be this scary conversation that nobody wants to talk about and wants to be all hush-hush about, because I don't want to talk about sex.
Yeah.
I don't want to, because it's not sexy anymore.
Right.
It's shameful, and it's icky, and it's not sexy to talk about how hard it is to have sex, or to how painful it is to have sex, or how disappointing it is, or any of those things. It's disappointing.
Right.
And
it shifts. I mean, your body shifts and your body's reactions shift. So adapting to that, and adapting to the changes that, and going with the flow of that, working with what you've got. And then, maybe along the way, fixing some of this stuff through different supplements or therapies. I mean, there's another thing that I'm going to actually have a guest coming on and talking about, which kind of goes hand in hand with what we're talking here, is MFR, myofascial release, and what that can do for the body. Yeah. And so stay tuned for that one, because that's going to be really interesting, and just tying into the whole overall optimization of your body.
Yeah,
it's inside and out.
Inside and out. Yeah. There's it's like I said, your body is a system, and it needs to be addressed, topically. You're talking about like things like massage therapy, myofascial release.
Yeah.
You have to, let's look at our brain. Let's look at, psychology, talk therapy, EDMR therapy. Like there's so much to it. Internal optimization, looking at things like blood work and hormones. And then all of the little lifestyle habits that accumulate to that might seem like nothing, but accumulate over the course of your day.
Yeah.
It's optimizing your life is not just about making sure your hormones are on track. Right. It's
not talking just popping a pill or taking an injection.
It's a lifestyle. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So the peptides and supplements. So let's talk about which ones you would recommend for, I guess talk about the broad stroke, and then get into maybe some specifics of
absolutely
what you would recommend.
Absolutely.
And you can even use me as an example.
Yeah. So first and
as
foremost,
I write all these notes.
Here's my pen. First and foremost, peptides and supplementation are not a one-size-fits-all journey. It is extremely important that you are taking what is best for you, and you are taking what is optimal for you, and you are doing your due diligence to figure out what that looks like, whether that's working with somebody like myself or somebody else who's an expert in the field, because recommendations should not be based on anecdote. It shouldn't be.
And I'm just going to interject here real quick, is that person that's going to guide you on this type of a journey is probably not going to be your primary care physician.
Almost definitely not going to be your primary care physician.
Yeah. And that might be a bit of a shift for some people to, it's like, but my insurance covers only this. Your insurance is probably not going to cover the type of provider that you're going to need to really optimize and utilize these tools.
The trade-off there is you also might not be paying for as much sick care down the road.
Right.
If you're if you're putting yourself in a physiological optimized state, there's probably there is a less chance that you are going to be dealing with things that have been deemed normal aging down the road.
Right.
Like risk of cancer, risk of, we're looking at genetic mutations here.
Right.
Cognitive decline, fall risk. Fall risk is a huge indicator of lifespan.
Absolutely. And it can be the tipping point for a person regardless of their age, but it can actually push them in a different trajectory for the rest of their lifespan.
Absolutely. So yes, it might be an investment in your current self, but it's just that it's an investment in your life. But yeah, a lot of people, it is kind of this shift of going, wait, I've grown up to say, to trust my doctors and they know best. And all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, this is different. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just different. And it's just getting information from the correct people. You wouldn't go to your mechanic to bake you a birthday cake. Right. You wouldn't go to your plastic surgeon for a heart transplant. And this is kind of the same thing. You wouldn't go to a primary care physician for functional health needs for the most part.
And the names of these doctors there would be a functional health doctor and
functional nutritionist, health optimization specialist. With peptides, there's no, nobody has their master's in peptide therapy. Nobody has their doctorate in peptide therapy.
And no doctors honestly have more than 10 hours, if that, of training in nutritional.
If that. Yeah. So it's really about vetting the person and finding somebody that you trust, that you click with, that you feel like is hearing you, addressing your concerns, and somebody that you're saying, okay, I trust you for this.
Right.
But yeah, as far as getting back to supplementation and peptides, is you should be following the data and you should be following the science and you should be following what your body needs. It's great when you hear things like, oh, my aunt was taking this supplement and it totally changed her skin. That's awesome. I'm super stoked for your aunt, but I'm not your aunt. And I could need something completely different. And ultimately, that's, I think, where a lot of people waste a lot of money, is kind of doing this collection, being like, okay, well, Nicole said to take this, and Courtney said to take this, and you cherry
the supplement boxes that some people have, and it's like, really?
Yeah, it's like a fish and tackle box.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I will be honest, I've gotten caught up in that.
Oh, we all have.
And I notice when it grows, and I'm like, okay, let's delve.
What do we really need? What do we really need?
And then, has taking the supplement actually affected, anything? Has it improved anything? And it's really hard to tell when you layer so many things.
Changing too many variables at once is never going to lead you to a conclusion of any kind. So following data, following science, but getting into specifics, like I said, addressing inflammation is going to be a game changer for so many people. Right. Specific peptides for that can include things like BPC 157, TB 500, and GHK-Cu. BPC 157 is a body protective complex that is going to be, the BPC 157 and TB 500 have been colloquially termed as the Wolverine stack because of their abilities to regenerate tissue and heal injuries due to decreasing inflammation and being tissue specific. Adding GHK-Cu, which is copper peptide, is just, it's like adding that jewelry to your outfit. It's like,
I heard that as the glow
blend. Yes, that's okay. that term has been brought up. GHK-Cu is phenomenal for inflammation. It's also amazing for the hair, skin, and nails. It does give you a glow. It is one of my very favorite peptides. I personally use it and love it and have seen tremendous results with it. But as far as that stack is concerned, that is a great, very low profile of side effects stack for a lot of people. And like I said, we can all benefit from decreased inflammation in our system.
Yeah. Now, when we're talking about these peptides, there's been a lot of stuff like I follow different, I don't know if you call them influencers or what they are, Gary Brecka, and all those people. The difference between injectables and ingestibles.
Yeah.
For the most part with peptides, we're talking about injectables.
Yes.
So that's something that some people may not feel comfortable with because you're talking about needles, you're talking about injecting something into your body, and
it comes down to bioavailability. Bioavailability is just your body's ability to utilize what you're giving it.
Right.
And bioavailability of injections is far superior to bioavailability of orals.
Because of your digestive process and the enzymes and how it breaks down.
Peptides are generally going to be pretty fragile molecules. So when you start introducing things like stomach acid, that can be a very degrading piece of the puzzle. That being said, BPC 157 is used a lot in gut health and gut protocols because of its anti-inflammatory and tissue regeneration. So if you're dealing with things like SIBO or leaky gut or gut inflammation due to bacterial overgrowth, you taking an oral BPC is actually going to be beneficial because you're kind of directly supplementing it to the GI tract. But for the most part, yeah, we're looking at injectables, and we're looking at injectables using an insulin needle, a subcutaneous injection that's just going into your belly or into the top of your butt. These aren't big 1.5-inch long needles that you're putting in your shoulder like a vaccine.
Right.
They're personally coming from somebody who is pretty needle phobic. I'm giving blood, not doing one of these. They're like, yeah, how's your day going? Oh, I'll be over here in dreamland. It's a very painless.
Right.
Painless. It's another thing that you have to be comfortable with.
Yeah. You just have to get past it. And you're talking about oftentimes multiple times a week.
Yes. Yes.
So, you come up with your schedule for your snack or for whatever supplement peptides that you're using, and you're going to be on top of it. But, you're taking your vitamin supplements daily. So now what about, let's talk peptides versus vitamins, mineral supplements, like all those other type of oral supplements that we have. Will taking these peptides maybe eliminate some of these
It's a great question. So
supplements.
Same kind of theory as I was talking about earlier. Tools in the toolbox. There can be amazing synergy between taking some oral supplements and using peptides alongside them. There can be there's some things that it's like, all right, we don't even need to talk about doing peptides. And then a lot of the times people will be interested because they are trendy and there is so much you can do with peptides. But there's also, I feel very confident that for most of the population and most of the people that come to me, I can optimize them without peptides. It's not a necessary, foregone conclusion. All right, you're working with Courtney. We're gonna be doing peptides. I love peptides. I've built a lot of my education around peptides. I believe in them. I love them. But it's not a necessary. You can have great results utilizing the proper oral supplementation routes, getting vitamins, minerals, and using things like herbs and adaptogens and blends of things. But peptides are the future for sure. There's a ton of promise in the field, and it allows you to be very hyper specific with things that you're addressing. When we're looking at things like libido, for instance, for women that are postmenopausal, we can take an injectable form of oxytocin, of kisspeptin, of PT141. Those are all going to be libido drivers. So now we are and those are going to be libido drivers from different angles. It's not just going to be a libido driver from mental. We're now actually going to be telling your body to optimize those systems that are going to make sex less painful, that are going to make you feel more comfortable in the moment, initiating all aspects of it. And that's looking at, and that's not using things like testosterone replacement. So if somebody came to me and was like, hey, doing HRT really scares me, but I don't want to feel like this anymore. There's routes, there's alternatives.
Another thing, energy related, and we haven't, I've got a couple other ones that I want to talk about. We haven't even mentioned is NAD. That's big, right?
It's a hot topic right now.
Because that goes deep into the cell. This is like mitochondrial health.
Yes, mitochondrial health is a huge talking point right now. Mitochondria, I think it's a pretty big, like, almost joke. It's like mitochondria, what is it? It's the powerhouse of the cell.
Right. I mean, we're going back to 5th grade science class right now. When you did the drawing of the plant cell and the animal cell, and the
labeling the organelles, and
yes. So, this is like a very, very specific supplement, and I've been really interested in this. Just again, as I get older, and now I've got 6 grandkids and running after grandkids, and whew, man, that is exhausting. So
gotta have you on your best for that. Yeah.
Right.
NAD, what it is NAD is a precursor to ATP, and ATP is the cellular currency of energy. Right. Your body takes glucose and goes through a reaction and goes through a cycle called the Krebs cycle, and that's going to be called glycolysis.
And my anatomy and physiology classes are coming down.
I know.
The Krebs cycle.
Oh my God. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Yes.
And NAD is going to be one of your final steps before you're able to make ATP. So NAD, you reduce NAD, and that cranks ATP production. So the idea is if we can supplement NAD, we are then supplementing ATP.
And why this is important is because our bodies do not, as we get older,
there's a natural decline of NAD production as we age. Correct. NAD is interesting because there is, it sounds great. Why wouldn't I want to take NAD? I'm 26. I want more energy. I want to feel great. But there is a point where you're almost too young to take NAD.
Okay.
It's not just that's another reason why working with somebody for peptides specifically is absolutely imperative, because things can look really good on paper, but in practice, there's so much nuance to it.
Right.
Is looking at ribosides and what's called like NMR or NR, nicotinamide ribosides. Those can actually be more beneficial depending on your age and depending on what your decline is looking like. Because if we're supplementing NAD too early, it can actually have a adverse effect.
Because if your body's naturally producing, it's just, I use this argument with melatonin. Melatonin is a great supplement if used appropriately, but if you
don't want to turn it off. Your body's
right. The body does naturally produce melatonin, which affects your sleep cycles and all of that. But if you overload it or are taking, people that take sleep supplements, like the actual pharmaceuticals for sleep, it interrupts your body's natural production of certain elements. And I just use the word elements because there's all kinds of things that go on to keep your body in proper biorhythms. And I would say the same thing for NAD. If your body's still appropriately producing NAD, don't mess with that.
Yeah. There's different
of a good thing.
There's different ways you can go about it. There's different levels to it, but NAD can be absolutely life-changing for so many people, especially in getting that energy surge, getting adequate energy levels. But it's not caffeine energy. It's not, oh my gosh, I just had 4 Red Bulls and I just had my NAD shot and I'm ready to jump to the moon. It's cellular energy. It's usable energy. It's energy without a crash. It's energy that's helping you sleep better. It's energy that's helping you build better quality tissue, more muscle. It's the good stuff.
Well, and again, because we're dealing with the mitochondria, which is, yes, you said the powerhouse of the cell, but it just manages so many other functionalities. And, we are a holistic system, but we're made up of cells. I mean, if those cells are not functioning well, then the system doesn't function well. So getting to that deep level, that's what I love about this NAD and the idea of the NAD. However, there are some cautions with that. It's number one is starting out slow because it hits you at the cellular level. It can have some pretty crazy reactions.
Whenever you work with anything, my hypothesis, my governing truth of what I do is my goal is to get the most with doing the least. Yeah. And what that means is utilizing our toolbox in the most efficient way, not only for cost, but also so we know it's working and so that we have the ability to add to it in the future. If we start off and we're going 100 miles an hour, we're not leaving much room to grow.
Right.
When we're slowly pressed on that gas, we have so much time to hit top speed.
Right.
Versus if we're just like, all right,
sure. Well, and the thing is,
it's going to burn quick.
And not only that, but to use that analogy, when you go slowly down the road, you have time to take a look at what's coming your way. And if you're, making a beeline and your only goal is to get there, you are not taking into consideration all the other changes that could be happening in your body. Yeah. And, you're just looking at, I'm just going to get there. But we have other things that we need to consider along the way.
With mitochondrial peptides especially as well, because you're influencing, like I said, deep cellular energy, it's very, very common to see a decrease in energy in the first few weeks. People will take it and they'll be like, she told me I was going to have more energy and I was going to sleep better and I was going to feel good. And I am lethargic and tired. And did I get a bum bottle? Like, what is going on? And it's almost like turning on a faucet that hasn't been run in a while, and it kind of will sputter at first.
Okay.
Like you gotta work through that sputtering, and you gotta work through like any rust that's kind of formed, and you gotta get that out, and you gotta get the sludge out before you can get that good flow going.
And it probably depends on where you are with.
Absolutely.
And I've heard people describe on the other side of it, having like, it felt like somebody was like a truck hitting their chest. Because it just like the heart and everything else just kind of goes, whoa, what the heck just happened?
What happened? Yeah. I mean,
so just slow,
steady, even, and smart.
Yes.
Smart. And that means that usually means listening to somebody who knows what they're talking about. Like it's a safety thing. It really is. Peptides are fantastic and incredible, and I will sing their praises to anybody who will listen to me talk about them. But they're, from the standpoint of these can be health altering substances in the best way, and you can do damage to yourself with them. It's also something where there is a lot with peptides. What's called redundancy is 1 + 1 + 1 does not always equal 3 when you're using peptides. 1 + 1 + 1 can equal 0. It can also equal 1. And so if we're just compiling, like I said, anecdotes, if we're just compiling, all right, well, this looks like it's going to be great for muscle gain and this and this and this and this and this, and I want to get the most jacked possible, so I'm going to take all of them.
Yeah.
Probably not your best goal. Or,
so much of a good thing.
These are all great for my energy, I'm going to take them all. And you've just canceled out all of their benefits. And now you're sitting in the same spot you were.
Yeah. So being smart,
mm-hmm.
being selective, and finding the right person to walk you along that path, I think is super important.
Absolutely.
Gosh, there's just so much more we could talk about with this.
No, truly.
It's like I think we could probably go.
We could have an entire episode on all of them.
On each one, and what they can do for you, and how they can help you optimize your health and your longevity and your wellness and all of that. And I wish we could just do this for hours and hours and hours. So I think kind of in conclusion, for today, I just want to offer, find the right provider. Again, it's not going to be your, probably not going to be your mainstream, primary care physician. Talk to your friends, look into the functional medicine doctors in your areas, or integrative medicine. That would be another word that would be used oftentimes. Get full labs and take a look at not just what the norms are, but look at it from a functional perspective. And for anybody that's interested, Courtney is actually local to me. She's in the Conejo Valley. If you're interested, just drop a message, or a comment, or you can message me and we can get you in contact with her, and you can work with her directly. She could work with anybody from anywhere. The company she works with is Rise Athletic Performance.
I work with people all across the world, actually. I work on an online platform, or if you are local, I would be happy to work in person, but I work on an entirely online platform. So I am able to work with anybody, anywhere, any time zone. I am flexible and always excited to work with people and reaching their goals.
And she's got a lot of knowledge. I mean, she and I've had a lot of conversations, a lot of really good knowledge. So either Courtney or someone like her. And, if you have more questions about peptides or the use of these different modalities, please message, put a note in the comments, and we will take a look at addressing that in future episodes. So Courtney, thank you so much for joining me today. This was very informative and very informational. I just love all of this stuff. I mean, I feel like I always learn more. I think I know a lot of stuff, but then I always learn more in
constant pursuit. Every time I learn something new about peptides or supplementation. I actually just got off a mentorship call before this, and I was like, "This is just so cool."
Yeah, it's just so much more stuff, and hopefully, we're going to start seeing. I probably should have before I said in conclusion. Because one of the other things that we did not talk about, I'm just going to jump into this real quick, is the availability of peptides and getting them. So they're not regulated. They're not part of the FDA or anything like that. There is a lot of attempts by pharmaceutical companies to push these away and to keep people from getting access to them. We're seeing some stuff with RFK, our Health and Human Services Secretary. He is actually very big on peptides and the idea of them. So follow him and see what he's doing with it. He's really going to try to normalize it and try to get it to the point where these are available to people without prescriptions and, obviously with proper guidance. But this does have to be said. These peptides are not something that you can go to your local.
These are not available at your local CVS. No,
or even your health food store like Whole Foods or Sprouts or whatever place that you might go to for some of your supplements. There's a little bit more of hoops that you have to go through to get them. So
yeah, just having good sources, working with providers who have good sources and can walk you through the process. But there are incredible, very reputable labs and sources for them. They're not FDA regulated right now. So making sure that you are getting the good stuff from the right people is imperative.
And knowing that you're getting the good stuff really means that it comes with certification of testing.
Yeah, looking at C of A's and SDS's, and that those things are readily available, and
that they provide that.
That they provide that with the order. Absolutely.
Yes, because if they don't, then you want
red flag.
Question, big red flag about the purity and the actual efficacy of what it is they're providing. And these are not cheap. So you want to make sure you're getting a good product. And
Absolutely.
there are a lot of providers out there, which we're not going to get into because that could take forever too. So again, I wanted to make sure I added that in there, but thank you again for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you on our next episode.